I'm at Poipu Beach in Kauai. Let's hope I get to see some seals and turtles. Poipu Beach is in Kauai, which is known as the Garden Island of Hawaii. Found my Hawaiian Monk Seal. I actually didn't know when I came to this beach that apparently it's one of the top ranked beaches in the world. For me, all I saw was Hawaiian Monk Seal, and that was plenty to convince me to come visit. He looks really, really flat. They're extremely strict about these animals on the beach. The lifeguards put out a rope every day. They put out caution signs and cones not to approach the animals. Touching the animals is against federal law. I found the seal really challenging to paint. She was just so flat. There wasn't a lot of form for me to really dig into. The value range was very limited. She was a very good model, though. She pretty much stayed still for the whole time. Once in a while, she would wiggle her head a little bit, wiggle her stomach, and then eventually she would settle back down. This is a female, and apparently she's been here since this morning. She did at one point roll over, and that did cause a little bit of a problem for me. But one of the things that I really loved at one point, she had this little pile of sand that she had nestled her head into. It just looked so comfortable. I knew that I had to put that into the painting. The lighting was also very flat. Not a lot of strong shadows or highlights to put in there. You can see the lighting is completely different than it was when I first started. And that's why I just don't care about a lot of things when I paint outside. And so I thought, this actually isn't that exciting as an image, but I'm just so excited about painting a Hawaiian monk seal on the beach that it doesn't matter if the painting is not that exciting. On top of that, the seals are so plump. There's no skeletal structure for you to really hang on to the way I would if I were drawing any other animal. Even her little fin was so floppy. Naturally, I had to keep my distance. So I actually couldn't see her that well. That got a little bit tricky when I started adding in some of the details. I spent very little time on the background. Super simple wash, basically to divide the composition into blue being the background, and then a yellow ochre color for the sand. I always think paintings are more interesting when some areas are not as developed as others. You just capture what you see in the moment, and I do not try to get things to really match or line up. Ordinarily, I would be thinking about maintaining that type of consistency, but when you're painting on site, it's just unreasonable to even try to do that. To really flesh out the volume of the seal, I spent a lot of time painting inside the form and also a lot of the areas around the seal. I know often our first impulse when we're drawing something is to start with the outline, but in painting, that doesn't work so well. Rather, I like to make patches of color. Those patches of color feel so much fleshier to me. They have a weight to them that a line just isn't going to have. To me, it feels closer to modeling clay as opposed to drawing. I also discovered really quickly what a nightmare it is to bring a watercolor palette to the beach. I don't know how I did not think about this in advance, but within about 10 minutes, my palette was just covered in sand. That wasn't so easy to work with, so thank goodness this wasn't a piece that really required a ton of really careful color mixing. One thing I was really conscious of was really searching for those contact points where the seal's body was contacting the sand. I really wanted to show the soft fleshiness of the seal up against that wet sand texture.
When I paint plein air, I have no expectations. In fact, a lot of the time, the work that I do, I don't really think it's that good, especially in places like this with animals that are moving. It really is much more about the experience of being here, observing that seal.
This angler brush is really great when you want to put down a very bold, assertive area of dark value. Those big chunks of dark value really create anchor points within the piece. For the tiny details on the face, I switched to dual brush pen markers. I'm not somebody who's really great at adding tiny details like that. It's the type of thing, it's just so much faster with marker, even though technically I could do it in watercolor. I guess the nice thing about knowing that your image isn't giving you a lot to work with is you sort of give up on really trying to make it look like a great piece. I jumped in way quicker with the sumi brush than I typically do to block in the forms because I really felt like the best I could do in this situation was to suggest the form. I wasn't really going to be able to articulate it very well. This clump of sand under her head became really helpful in the painting because it was a distinct textural change in my painting technique, but it also was a very visible contact point between the seal and the beach. The thing about the seal basking is she's so relaxed. I mean, I look at her and just think, oh man, I wish I could relax like that. Get that flat and smushed. That would feel amazing.
I'm gonna go see if I can find a turtle. It looks like there is indeed a turtle far up ahead.